Welcome, everybody, to the Genesis Mindset. Today is Mobick Monday, and in today's episode, I'm going to be sharing why I think Mobick can be a better and safer version of Bitcoin. So this is speculation, but I do believe it has the properties to actually be a superior Bitcoin. Whether that means superior in price remains to be seen, but I do believe it means superior in terms of safety. So with that, let's get into the episode. So as always, this is simply just investing mindset. It's not about me giving you any financial advice. It's just my personal opinion only. It's for entertainment purposes only. So Bitmobick can be an even safer investment than Bitcoin. So I'm going to share with you how and why. So first of all, big news. Price continues to surge. This is what everybody loves. Everybody's favorite thing is price. We all love to chase price, and we're up to $638 Australian. So just a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, we were in the 400s. Last week, we were in the 500s. Today, we're in the 600s. So we're on target for the 1 million Korean won. So at the moment, I think it's about 580,000 Korean won or thereabouts. So we're on target for the 1 million Korean won. And if that's the case, then we're going to be able to see Mr. Ott in Brisbane, along with all the Mobickers, the Korean Mobickers, who will be coming here for the celebration anniversary for the special event that happened, the special airdrop event that happened here. So the safety of Bitcoin. So what makes Bitcoin a superior asset? So first of all, it's the cryptography and the design that makes it trustless. This is something that gives it the safety. It also has no middlemen. It's all completely reliant on a ledger. And so this public ledger itself is transparent and immutable, which means it can't actually be changed. Everything is done automatically. As you transact, it's done automatically. It cannot be edited. Nobody can fudge it. Nobody can do anything against the law with it. Once it's done, it's there. It's set in stone. The ledger is public, and it's secured cryptographically. So it's actually extremely difficult to hack, if not next to impossible, because it's a distributed ledger. So through the mining that's distributed around the world, the cost of actually hacking into the network is worth more than the value of what can actually be obtained by hacking the network. So you need over 50% computing power to hack into the network, and to actually acquire that computing power is going to cost more than what you're actually going to get out of actually hacking into it. So if you do want to know a little bit more about Bitcoin, I'll go into more depth about this in my starter video on Bitcoin, because I wanted to explain the story of Bitcoin just so you could get the context for Bitmobick. So why can Bitmobick actually be safer? So first, everyone often asks what Bitmobick is. Somebody actually asked me, how can you describe this in one sentence? So I tried to come up with a summary in one sentence with Mobickers Oceania, and this is what we've come up with. So Bitmobick is the forked Bitcoin enterprise network connecting businesses and people with blockchain technology through the innovation of public goods. So what does that actually mean? So to unpack that, it's a fork of Bitcoin. The reason why it's an enterprise network is because of the public goods. So the public goods token supply is actually being distributed to enterprises, so universities, companies, organizations, and they therefore are becoming part of the distributed network. So there is a concerted effort to actually distribute the network through enterprises. So it's connecting the people who first received Bitmobick through the airdrop with enterprises, and then enterprises can use it in the same way that Michael Saylor is using Bitcoin as an asset on their books. So this is how Bitmobick is going to be. There's also going to be Bitcoin as the base layer, and because Bitmobick is actually a lot cheaper than Bitcoin, these companies can actually utilize the network of Bitmobick to experiment, to create all sorts of activities and business applications through the actual blockchain. So it's actually a way for them to test things on Bitmobick, and they can implement it on Bitcoin if they so choose. The big difference also is it has no negative unknown externalities. The biggest one in Bitcoin being the gigantic future sell pressure, so the unknown whales. So there's so many whales. There's over, out of the 21 million supply, there's about 10 or so percent where nobody knows where that Bitcoin actually is from the very first earliest days of Bitcoin mining. Nobody knows where it is. It hasn't moved in many, many years. So there is this fear, this background fear of whether they can actually dump down the price. And they can significantly dump down the price because of how thin the liquidity is. So yes, there's over 20 million Bitcoin in circulation, but most of it's locked away, which means what you can actually purchase on the market is very, very small proportionally compared to the other 20 million that's actually in supply. So as a result, if somebody comes out with 1 million Bitcoin, let's say Satoshi comes with his 1 million Bitcoin, he sells all that, he can really collapse the price very heavily. So there is none of this unknown externality because this fork, you actually have to claim your BitMobick. And so the public goods supply also places the tokens in the hands of publicly known and trusted companies, universities, and organizations. So this is a big, big feature. So again, unlike the whales, who we don't really know who they are, they're unknowns, and to a certain degree, this is how blockchain should be. But also, in an ideal world, things like decentralization in and of themselves are wonderful concepts, but you can't have decentralization without a certain degree of centralization. You can't have trustlessness without a certain degree of trust. So somewhere the truth exists in the middle. So in the same way, with these unknown whales in Bitcoin, that externality is actually removed, and the whales is actually placed in the hands of the airdrop, the people who receive the airdrop. So they can possibly be considered whales, but more than that, the whales will be these companies. So for example, JTBC, everybody knows this company. They're one of the top 5 media companies, and they own a very large portion of the supply of BitMobick. And as a public good supply is continued to be handed out to these companies, organizations, and universities, the public is aware of who those organizations are, and they can't actually sell those tokens. So they're obliged contractually to participate in the ecosystem in a particular way. So they can't actually dump the tokens. So this is a very, very positive sign where the whales aren't actually creating any sell pressure. As such, all the tokens are actually accounted for, and the founder actually owns none. So unlike Satoshi Nakamoto, who owns 5% of the supply, Mr. Or, Professor Otemin, owns 0% of the supply. So this is also a completely unique factor with this particular project. It's literally the only cryptocurrency project that I know of in existence where the owner, the creator, the founder doesn't even own a single token. So it's a very selfless chain from the core, and it's permeated out through the network, through the ecosystem, through the community that it's created. Because of his mind, because of his character, because of his virtue, it's attracting like-minded people to the network, to the community. And so the whale hunting, so just going into a little bit more detail about what this is. So in the white paper, BitMobick, actually, one of its goals was to do whale hunting. So to hunt these large whales to actually help Bitcoin by revealing whether they exist or not. So the way that they were going to reveal them is because it's a fork, people who actually owned Bitcoin prior to the forking of the network to create BitMobick, if it was stored on a private ledger and not on a public centralized exchange, they actually can claim it, but it has to be approved by the ledger. And these days, the reason why is because whales can now actually harm the system. The price is so high. We also want to remove that negative externality of whales actually just claiming 1 million BitMobick. If Satoshi came along and claimed 1 million BitMobick and then just dumped the price, it's very bad for BitMobick. So it actually has to get approved, which is something that's really good. And it might end up being something that gets turned off. And then once it's turned off and the network goes live, any remaining supply gets burnt. So we might not end up with the 21 million supply like Bitcoin. It might end up being a little bit less because of the amount of supply that's actually going to get burnt. So very short, very simple, very easy explanation, I feel. And one thing I do want to mention as well, so particularly for people who are interested in purchasing BitMobick, we have had a large an influx of interest actually of people wanting to purchase it. The price keeps going up. Don't get caught off guard. You have to think long term. This is not financial advice, but the way that I like to invest is I like to think long term. So am I going to secure a loss now if my thesis is I think this is going to be at least in the 10,000 range above. Therefore, I want to be getting it as cheap as possible. And so, yes, it's going to keep going up. To wait for a dip is a good idea, but you don't know when that dip is going to come, particularly with this event happening in July, where potentially if we reach 1 million Korean won, which is over 1,000 Australian dollars, over 1,100 Australian dollars, then if that's the case, you might not get a good dip until then. It might only dip back down to, say, $800 or $700. The sellers could very much be exhausted out of the ecosystem, because as the public goods continue to get distributed out, the sellers are being exhausted because they can see the potential of the network. They can see the potential of the growth of the ecosystem and the price. So the sellers are actually getting exhausted. So think longer term. That's my recommendation. That's what I always do. So I always try and look at this like, okay, do I want to secure a loss now? Yes. Okay, sure. I wasn't able to get it at $50, but it's now $600. Am I going to have that same regret when it hits $1,500? Am I going to be kicking myself that I wasn't able to get it at $600? So really think about it from that perspective. And on that, we actually are going to be releasing Bitcoin to BTCMobick trading by the end of the year. So that's something that will get introduced by the end of the year. So it will be done through an app, through a trading platform of some description, where people outside of Korea can actually get involved with the network and actually trade, rather than it'll still be peer-to-peer, but it'll actually be organized peer-to-peer. So it won't be going through me and then me going through this and then coming through here to there. It'll be like an organized platform, an organized application. So look forward to that. I'll keep you in tune with that. So I'm going to finish with a book reading from, again, my favorite Korean author. And so this book is How to Have a Meeting with God, Buddha, and Allah. And this particular passage is about gratitude. And given that I'm extremely grateful to this network, I wanted to really read this portion of the passage for you. So, gratitude. People do not know how to be grateful for being born into and living in this world, because they live inside their own minds. Since people live according to the greed in their minds, they live continuously complaining. People's blessings are founded in a grateful and generous mind, as people with that mind find that everything works out smoothly, and so they can succeed. And one of the main reasons why I also wanted to read that is because, yes, people are here to make money, but in terms of the degree of greed that I feel in this network, it's a lot less than I feel in a lot of other networks that I see. And this is something that I really love. This is something that is disseminated out of the character of the founder, Professor Orr. And so because he has a very generous and grateful mind, it is permeating throughout the ecosystem, and it is permeating throughout the network, and it's going to continue to attract more like-minded people. And so this network will continue to grow. It will continue to thrive, and I see it being a massive success in the future. I really do believe that it can get to over $10,000. And I think once it gets over $10,000, I really do feel that that is just the beginning, because everybody's intentions, the biggest whales that I speak to, their intentions are to produce good outcomes for the world. And this is something that's very, very, very powerful. That level of gratitude towards the world and that level of respect towards the world and wanting to change the world is exactly what cryptocurrency was invented for, to actually change the world and make it a better place. So with that, thank you very much. Take care and have a good day.